Power Sport Extra. Sports Roundup. Tessa Dooms on Power 98.7, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's 6:54 and continuing on with sports news. Of course, we heard that Caster Semenya has won a court case in Europe against the Swiss government, the European Court of Human Rights, finding that in her favor in terms of the treatment that she was given and the judgments against her in the sporting arena. With us is Prof. Cornelius from the Center for Sports and Entertainment Law, just to explain what the implications of this victory is for Caster Semenya. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
A 15-2 ruling in favor of Caster Semenya. What do you think were the most compelling things, and what does this judgment mean?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's one of those situations where you win the case, but afterwards you think, have I really won anything? Because remember, the case started in the Court of Arbitration for Sport against World Athletics that ruled against Caster Semenya.
Yeah.
Then she took it on appeal to the Swiss Federal Supreme Court that refused the appeal. And from there, she appealed to the European Court of Justice. Now, from there on, it's no longer a case against World Athletics. It's actually a case against Switzerland for saying that they did not recognize her human rights. So that case was won about 2 years ago in a 3-2 majority by Caster. And then we had this appeal to the Grand Chamber. So this is like the equivalent of the Constitutional Court that we have in Europe. And they ruled now in a 17 or a 15-2, as you said, majority. But what they did was they did not really rule on whether the World Athletics regulations violate her human rights.
Yeah.
They do strongly allude to that. But they expressly say they don't have jurisdiction in this case on that. But what they did rule was that the Swiss government failed to provide her a right to a free and fair access to justice by the Swiss Federal Court not really considering her appeal in detail. So she'd won that victory, but it's actually, for it to be anything more, she'll have to go back to Switzerland to say to the
Swiss Federal Court there.
Yes, you've now got to revisit the matter. So obviously for her athletics career, I think, time has moved on. I'm not sure if there's going to be much for her to gain from that. Although I do see in British media there are suggestions that she might take the matter back to the Swiss court. So we'll have to wait and see.
But I guess, Prof, besides whether or not she goes back onto the track, this is also a matter of principle for Caster Semenya, because she's not only here fighting for her human rights, which I think is already a big fight in and of itself. She's also fighting against systemic discrimination within the sport and trying to make a case for the fact that the sport as a whole and countries that are participating cannot just arbitrarily dismiss somebody's rights and override their human rights. And I think that that's the bigger case on the table here. Is there a possibility down the line here, if not for her right to compete, which may now be foregone in terms of just where she is in her career, but perhaps civic action?
Well, certainly I think that could be an option. So you're completely correct. It's not only about her human rights; it's about other athletes as well. And certainly, if she should go back to the Swiss court and they should rule in her favor and overturn the Court of Arbitration for Sport's decision, it could open up the door for civil action
for a claim
against World Athletics for a claim for the loss that she's made.
Because it's been 7 years. It's been 7 years that she's effectively been benched from the sport. And so there's also an economic impact on her life that she can fight for here.
Absolutely, she can, yeah. But I think more important for the sports world from this judgment is that the European Court, the Grand Chamber, has ruled that the whole sports adjudication system in the Court of Arbitration for Sport is heavily biased towards the sports federations. So it means actually that the highest European court has said we do not trust this court. And that is a severe situation for the sports world. So I think they will have to revisit the structures of the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and then its governing body, the International Council on Arbitration for Sport, and how that is put together. So I do see something good as well from that point of view eventually coming from this.
Well, I think that this is definitely a fight worth fighting for her in terms of just her career and the length of her career being cut short, and also a lesson to world athletics, I think. I think that they have taken this matter quite lightly and quite dismissive of her rights, especially in the beginning. They weren't listening to anyone, it would seem, on this matter. So I think I support her in taking this as far as she possibly can. Athletics bodies, big bodies like FIFA, etc., seem to be a law unto themselves. And so the ability for our athlete, a South African athlete, to fight at the highest levels, I think, is a very, very important step in terms of accountability within those spaces.
Well, absolutely, and I think that is the strong thing that comes out of this is effectively, as you say, the Grand Chamber in Europe now saying that, these sports bodies are so powerful. And what is also different in the world of sports is with most arbitrations, you have an economic interest. So it's just about whether a contract is performed or not and what the financial implications are. Yeah. But sports bodies actually control the physical bodies of their athletes. There's doping regulations, in this case, expecting an athlete to use medication. There's issues of sports injuries, burnout, and that. And
so this could affect a number of different athletes.
Yeah, and because of that, the European Court said there must be a much higher level of oversight by national courts in countries like Switzerland where the federations are based.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. Steve Cornelius from the Center for Sports and Entertainment Law, just for breaking that one down for us. I certainly respect Castro for fighting for herself, for her rights, and for her career. This is definitely also a fight about her bag. Her bag was affected by this. After the 7 o'clock news, we're going to be talking about the electricity mix in South Africa with the Deputy Minister of Electricity. So stay tuned for that.